And we're live. Welcome back, everybody, to a new episode of the Wheelie Podcast. I'm your host, Micah Toll, and we're joined again by Electrek's Seth Weintraub. How's it going, Seth?
I'm good.
And we have a bunch of new e-bike and e-moto and other e-mobility stories to share with you guys this week. We'll probably get that up on the screen soon, but it's everything ranging from LiveWire's upcoming maxi-scooter to Tern just surpassing 1,000,000 miles on their New York City fleet bikes. We're going to talk about Yamaha's new electric scooter. We've tested out some interesting things from JackRabbit's new two-seater to a fascinating electrified self-driving chair and a few other interesting surprises along the way. But where are we going to start with this week, Seth?
All right, we're starting with Tern's New York City delivery e-bike fleet crosses 1,000,000 miles with some bikes rolling past 30K.
Yeah, this is a fascinating chance to look at some of these Tern e-bikes in sort of like their prime environment, which is like everyday hard usage. We talk a lot about
Their
Tern
native
as one of
habitat.
the exactly, yeah. I mean, this is where they like want to perform. We talk about Tern as being one of those companies that just builds higher quality e-bikes to a higher standard. Now you pay for that. A lot of these bikes are, $4 or $5, $6,000. But if you want like a really good bike, that's where you go. And there's been a fleet in New York City for I think since 2021, so about 4 or 5 years now, of Tern bikes that are used by several different delivery services pulling these huge trailers. If you're watching the podcast here with us, then you'll see these are just like massive cargo trailers. These things pull sometimes up to I think it's three or 400 pounds on these trailers, and these are often running dual shifts, so like 16 hours a day. Some of these run up to 20 hours per day, and the entire fleet recently crossed its 1,000,000 mile mark, which is huge. But that just tells you like how much total. Some of these bikes individually have over 30,000 miles on them, which is kind of nuts. That's 48,000 kilometers for anyone using a more sensical metric to measure distances here. I mean, for a single electric bicycle, 30,000 miles, almost 50,000 kilometers is pretty nuts. And these things are a great example of what happens when you build bikes for the long term. And that's why we say, like a Rad, Electrek, a Ride One Up, these are great bikes to get people into e-biking, but they're not built to last for years and years and years. Whereas some of these higher quality bikes are really meant for the long haul. And what's interesting here is this isn't like a special commercial version that Tern has made. These are just their bikes. Like these are the same bikes that they sell in dealers to consumers. So, this hasn't been modified for commercial use. Now, it's probably gone through a lot more tires than you or I are ever going to go through, probably a lot more brake pads, but it's the same bike, the same suspension, the same frame, the same motors, and they've just proven themselves in that kind of environment. So that's kind of wild. And to me, it's just a fun chance to see a real world example of these bikes being used for such intensive work and for such long periods, instead of just talking about like theoretically these bikes are designed to last longer. Have you seen these things rolling around New York City, Seth?
I have. I've seen like this exact setup at least once, probably more than once, and I didn't realize it was a Tern. But I remember specifically thinking one time that they're using Tern bikes. First of all, I don't think long haul was meant to be a pun, even though it is. Second, what a great proving ground for bikes. Like, and it's clear, they're measuring the miles. They're probably measuring like, this brake pad doesn't line up. This, they're probably getting a lot of great feedback on what happens to their bikes after 20, 30,000 miles, which, by the way, is crazy to think about a bike going that far, especially in New York City. Like New York City cargo hauling, there's going to be a lot of bumps. There's going to be a lot of potholes. There's going to be a lot of just mayhem.
In seasons. It's not Southern California.
Right. So these bikes are getting tested. And if they're lasting 30,000 miles, some of them, that's wild. Like, hats off to them. And man, they're probably getting some great data about like what fails after, 10,000 miles, 20,000 miles. So I would expect this to just even make Tern bikes more impressive. And of course, we've been saying for years and years, like, some of the best cargo bikes out there, Tern bikes are great, not only just from a riding standpoint with the Bosch powertrains usually, but also just, kind of built forever to last forever. So, hats off to Tern, not only for, building great bikes, but also like putting them through these tests and coming out with 30,000 miles. That's crazy.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see if my back button's working today.
Yeah, we got to get you a new back button.
Well, it's weird because it seems like I'll just go. Here we go. All right. CPSC warns Rad Power bike owners to stop using select batteries immediately due to fire risk. This is exactly what Rad needed. Good publicity.
Yeah. This tests the there's no such thing as bad publicity thing, right?
Yeah.
So this is a fascinating story. So first of all, the Consumer Product Safety Commission came out with a safety warning about a week ago, maybe a little more, regarding Rad Power Bikes, one of their battery models. It's the most popular one that's on most of their bikes. It's not the new Safe Shield. It's not the smaller 10 amp hour one. It's that basic like 48 volt. I think it's 14 and a half amp hour battery, something like that. Basically saying that it can unexpectedly catch fire, and that any owners of bikes that it was installed on should stop using it immediately. This is a huge deal because this is probably the most prolific battery in the US. Rad has almost 700,000 bikes on the road. Not all of them use this battery, but the vast majority of them do. And so this is a huge deal. Now, for its part, Rad is contesting this warning. This is not a voluntary recall from Rad. We see a lot of these voluntary recalls where the company has an issue, they go to the CPSC, and together they announce a recall. This is not that. This is the CPSC saying that we believe this battery is not safe. We've asked Rad to do a recall. They have not agreed, and so we are on our own announcing this safety warning. Now, in the safety notice, the CPSC confirms there have been 31 fires linked to these batteries. I think 12 of those, if I'm not mistaken, included property damage. Fortunately, there have not been any injuries. But anytime that you're talking about e-bike related fire, it has the potential for catastrophic consequences because there are a lot of battery cells in these batteries. Now, for a lot of publications, that's where the story ended. And in fact, this story traveled the internet many times around. In many places, it was fairly sensationalized. But if you ask me, there's a lot more to this story, and I'm actually working on an article right now. I've got a few more interviews to do, but I hope to have it out early next week, because I don't think that the CPSC is correct here. At least, I think that this is fairly misguided. And I'll give you sort of a brief explanation of why. First of all, Rad says that for its part, that their batteries have been, they've undergone third-party testing that has confirmed that they're compliant with the highest safety standards. Now, these packs themselves were not UL certified. It doesn't mean they weren't compliant. They just weren't tested by UL or a UL connected laboratory to confirm their compliance, but they did undergo third-party testing to confirm that. Rad says they've provided that testing to the CPSC and has said that the CPSC does not dispute those findings, that the batteries are in fact compliant with the highest industry safety standards available today. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that if you look at the numbers, 31 battery fires, while any battery fire is a problem, 31 out of what's probably around 500,000 batteries is actually a pretty good incident rate, like far better than average. I took New York City's data, which last last year, or actually I think it was this year through July, they had something like 140 lithium ion battery fires from micromobility products. Now that's assuming somewhere around 100,000 e-bikes and e-scooters and things in the city. The last numbers I was able to find were 2023, which said around 65,000. So to be generous, we'll assume like 100,000. Basically, that puts Rad several times better than the average if you take sort of an average of all e-bikes and e-scooters in the industry using New York City's data, which is some of the best data we have available. Partly because there's so many e-bikes and e-scooters there, and partly because it's become such an issue that it's very widely reported and documented. So if you compare Rad to other companies, they're just so far above and beyond in terms of their incident rate of fire that it seems a little bit strange for the CPSC to go after them when there are many other companies with much higher incident rates. Then the question becomes, well, why is this? And that's what I'm still kind of scratching my head about and working my way around, because what I can come up with is, for one thing, Rad is accountable, right? Like they have an address, and if you have a problem with them, you know where to find them. They've got an office in Seattle. If you look at all of these fly-by-night e-bike companies, most of them just from sort of like Chinese front companies that pump out several thousand bikes and then change their name and start over, they might have a bunch of battery fires, but the company only exists for a few months or maybe a year and then it's gone. So who do you go to with claims, that sort of thing? The other thing is, if someone does have a battery fire, a lot of these bikes are essentially nameless, or their name doesn't exist anymore. So I think part of it is that Rad is accountable in that way, that you can come to them and say, like, we've found this. But the fact of the matter is, what they've found is a very low incident rate of fires. So it's just kind of a head scratcher to me. And again, like, I don't want to discount the importance of fire safety with lithium-ion batteries and e-bikes. This is very important. But the issue is that there are so many more cases where this could have been applied before coming to Rad. And secondly, if you read the actual safety notice, what it talks about is these are cases where the battery has been damaged and water has been allowed to enter it and that sort of thing. And that's if you take any e-bike battery and you damage it and you allow water inside of it, you can very likely have a fire. Like, it's not a flaw of a battery that if it's broken open and flooded, like if you search Bosch battery fire on Reddit, you'll find cases where people's batteries have gotten water in them and they've caught on fire. Like, any battery can happen to. UL certified batteries, it can happen to. So the fact that the CPSC thinks this is some sort of defect with these batteries is just surprising to me, because from what we can tell and from what appears to be independent third-party testing, there's no actual defect with these batteries, and they're performing better than industry average. It's just that they know where Rad is, and so even with a small number, they can come to them and say, we've got this, 2.5 dozen cases. It's time for you to recall these batteries. So it's a bit of a strange situation. On the one hand, you assume that anything the CPSC puts out there in terms of product safety is going to be important and accurate and reliable, because that's the whole point of the organization. On the other hand, the data kind of says something different. Like, maybe the CPSC got out over its skis a bit on this one. So it's very new territory. It's something that we haven't seen before. And even the CPSC sort of forcing a non-voluntary recall or putting out this safety notice without the cooperation of the company itself is sort of unprecedented. So it's just a very strange situation right now in the micromobility world. And while I would still warn anyone who has one of these batteries, like, yes, you do want to be careful. If it's at all damaged, if water's gotten into it, stop using it, take it to a battery place, etc. I'm not sure that a sort of total recall, which is what the CPSC is suggesting, is necessarily warranted by what we see in the numbers here. Does that make sense, or am I crazy here?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like the CPSC should kind of clarify, like, hey, check your Rad batteries for damage. And then if there's damage, then there could be a problem. But like, if it's not damaged, like, you would, well, maybe not. I don't know. Like, if there's like a crack that you couldn't see, maybe, I don't know. I'm trying to imagine like a situation where like there could be damage. You wouldn't know there was damage, then salt water got into it. I don't know. Like, there's edge cases.
Yeah, well, that's where like, IPX7 rated batteries that you can literally submerge. I mean, that should be the holy grail, right? Or like Rad's newer Safe Shield batteries that are potted in epoxy, so you literally can't access the cells. Like that's where you have that extra peace of mind because it's not like there's a hairline crack, like you were saying, that water gets in and you don't even know, and every winter you're getting more and more salt in there.
Right.
So that's like the goal is that there's just no way. I mean, ideally, it'd be great if there was some sort of moisture indicator like phones used to have so that
Right.
you'd know, like, oh,
They still
shoot,
have them.
I'm like, yeah, okay. Now they're submergible, though. Oh, I guess, like,
No, like if
yeah.
you plug in an iPhone that's been in the water into the USB port, it'll say no go.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So, if there was something like that, that would certainly be helpful. But, I
Or
mean,
like just dip every battery in plastic and
plastic dip.
plastic. Yeah. What is that called? The colorful one in the water? Something dip. Anyway, hydro dip. Something
Yeah.
like that.
For like tool handles?
No, they do it for like decoration. Like you can put your
Oh,
helmet
that's
in
right. Yeah. Yeah,
your
exactly.
sneakers
Well,
in there.
yeah, similar in form, not quite in function, but
Right.
yeah. Um, but yeah, I mean, that would be the ideal so that you know that you don't have water in there. But at the end of the day, if, unbeknownst to you, you've gotten water, especially salt water in there to increase the rate of corrosion, then that's a risk for any battery. That's not like Rad's fault. It's not a flaw in the design. It's you've got a damaged battery. Like you shouldn't
Right.
have dropped it kind of thing.
Right.
So
Yeah,
I
it's a
don't
tough
know.
one.
Like, yeah, like I want to promote safety, and it feels weird to go against something the CPSC is saying because, like, you'd think they don't just like come out with these things for no good reason.
Right.
But like, I've worked with batteries for a long time. I'm an engineer. I'm trying to look at this critically, and I'm having some issues with what they're presenting.
Yeah, and I remember like there was a time not too long ago. We had battery expert
Luke Workman, yeah.
Luke Workman on, and I remember him saying, Rad is going to have a problem in the future because they don't have like a standardized battery. They just kind of this was years ago, but they kind of pull like the best value battery of what's coming out of China at the moment. That's one of the reasons they had very inexpensive bikes, but he said like
Oh,
they're not
I didn't
traceable.
remember that part. Yeah, I'll have to go back and look because I did pull a couple quotes out of there for the article I'm working on, but I didn't remember anything about Rad. I'll have to double check that.
Yeah, you
It's
should
a long interview.
maybe even ping him on that because I know he has a lot to say about that.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's like one of those things where Rad is a victim of its previous success, where probably the most Rad probably just kept coming up because they were the market leader 5 years ago, 6 years ago. So just numbers wise, and you went into numbers before, but just numbers wise, there were probably a lot more Rad's batteries coming up just because they were a bigger portion of the e-bikes. Just like the crashes on e-bikes, like there's probably more Rad crashes because there's more Rad bikes out there. So
Right.
it's a victim of their own success and now paying the price, I guess.
Yep.
Let's move on. Oh, I got another.
Yeah, I forget which it's like a logical fallacy or something like sampling bias or confirmation bias. I forget which one that is. But
It's something like that, yeah.
yeah.
I'm also out of the loop on that. Here we go. JackRabbit MG Doble review, the 2-person e-bike that's way too fun.
This was a blast to review. JackRabbit, they're known for their smaller, they're not technically electric bicycles. We often call them like micro e-bikes or just like abbreviate them as an e-bike, but they do not have pedals. They have foot pegs. So this is really sort of legally a seated scooter. And normally all the JackRabbits have been much smaller, but this is their first larger format. It's got a 24-inch front wheel. It still has a 20-inch in the rear. These are 3-inch wide tires. And this one is one of their 2 models that is designed to have a 2-passenger seat on it. So it's got this long banana style seat. Like if you had a Schwinn Stingray or something as a kid, it looks very much like that saddle. And
which by itself is enough awesome already.
yeah. And they also offer like a sissy bar and like, they have a few accessories you can put on there to like really pull out the Stingray vibes.
Yeah.
But there are a few sort of like, I don't even want to call them gimmicks because they're not, like tricks for the JackRabbit that make it so special here. For one thing, it's quite lightweight and compact. This one it's the heaviest JackRabbit yet. I think it's 50 or like 52 pounds, something like that. Which, as far as two-person e-bikes go, is really lightweight. Most of the two-person e-bikes we see, they're 80, 90 pounds at least. They're these big, heavy moped-style bikes. And so the fact that you can get two people on what feels like a fairly powerful bike at barely 50 pounds is a big deal. Second, it is very compact in that the handlebars turn sideways. And so if you live in an apartment like I do, and I actually have like 3 bikes behind me in my office / spare bedroom here, they take up a lot of space. With this, you could literally put it against the wall and it takes up like 7 inches of space, or put it behind a couch or in a hallway. Hallways are the worst because like the handlebars take up half a hallway, but this you can leave it in a hallway and it doesn't get blocked. So really cool design there. Next, they've got those, they call them the Range Buster batteries. There are 2 of them on this model. They slip into the frame and they're kind of overslung on either side. And they're specific to JackRabbit. Each one's 24 miles, so it's got 48 miles total. And then lastly, it is unlockable. So out of the box, it goes 20 miles per hour. They've got a waiver that you can contact the company and sign that says like you're only going to use it off-road if you unlock it, and then it will unlock to 24 miles per hour. So you get a little bit extra speed. So there are some really cool features here. It also has hybrid hydraulic brakes, which, if that sounds strange, it's because they're kind of both mechanical and hydraulic. They have mechanical cables, so the top like lever of it looks like a mechanical disc brake lever to activate it, but down by the caliper, it's got a hydraulic piston that the cable pulls. So they're still hydraulic in terms of that extra power and like the lower maintenance part. And while you may eventually have to adjust your cables, it'll take a lot longer because you only have to pull on the handle a little bit to get that braking force. It's not like normal mechanical brakes, which you're really yanking on that cable and that's causing cable stretch. So a lot of cool things about this bike. It's got one major downside and a few small ones. The major one is the price. It's like $2,500, which is a lot for a 20 mile per hour or 24 mile per hour, 750 watt bike. So, it's definitely not for everybody. It's for someone who specifically wants the lightweight, compact design of a JackRabbit. Next, you don't have the pedals, so you're not getting that exercise. It's not legally an e-bike, so state to state it's going to vary. If you are allowed to ride electric scooters in your state, then it probably fits under scooter laws, but it's something that you have to look up yourself. Some states define scooters as having a floorboard, so there are some legal issues in some states, but generally speaking, just a really cool vehicle, a lot of fun to ride. What was fascinating though to me was that while most of my JackRabbit articles, the comments are basically either like, oh, that's kind of weird but neat, or like, not for me. But this was the first time I've written about a JackRabbit that there was a lot of like aggressive comments about it not being an e-bike. And like, I get it, we're at a time when e-bike laws are under a lot of scrutiny, and this is certainly not an electric bicycle. It does not have pedals. But there are a lot of people that were like angry about this thing for some reason, as if it was like masquerading as a bicycle. And for one thing, like, it's obviously not a bicycle. It doesn't have pedals. So like, that's right there. Like, it's not trying to be a bike. And if anything, you could say that like by avoiding the charade of including pedals, which a lot of moped style bikes do to sort of fit into that legal class, by avoiding that charade that people aren't going to use anyways, they get to save complexity and weight and that sort of thing. But to me, I think it's more that just because it's bigger and it looks a little bit more like a bike than previous JackRabbits, that's what's causing people to sort of like have that reaction, I have to imagine. But for me, like, I just don't have a problem with that. Like, it feels like a bike. Legally, it's a scooter, and it's a lot of fun to ride. So, this isn't one of these like 30, 40 mile per hour bikes that I think people are justifiably angry over. I just think that for some reason people see this as like, larger than a normal JackRabbit, and suddenly there's some pushback. But to me, like 20 miles per hour is certainly reasonable. And so I think this is a pretty cool little vehicle.
Yeah, we'll get into the faster pedalless bikes here pretty soon. But yeah, I don't see what there is to complain about. I mean, frankly, most people with this form factor of bike are not using the pedals anyway.
Right.
So why add the complexity? Maybe like let's all just like get over the charade.
Relax.
Yeah, I mean, people are riding the stand-up scooters in the bike lane. Nobody like loses their mind over that. Like, what is it?
Exactly.
Because you're sitting down, you're like, you know,
Yeah. Oh no, I'm more stable and won't fall into a pothole.
right? Yeah, and have bigger wheels. Oh God. Um, yeah, no, I agree with all that stuff. Jackrabbits seem great, but like the price point always just is like yeah,
Yeah, they're just very expensive. Like they do something others can't. So like, they are giving you something for that money, but it's the compactness and the lightweight. Like that's what they're selling. So if you don't need it, it's not worth it. But
yeah.
if you do need the compactness, that's where it starts to make sense.
I love how they say 749 watts. Like, oh, like, oh gosh, like not 50. That would be horrible.
Yeah, specifically measured. And there was a guy dosing it and just like took back a little bit.
Yeah, it's like the I don't know if you have a DJI mini drone, but they're always like 249-gram battery. Like, no, this is totally fine.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's just staying within the limit there. Oh, I think we lost Seth there for a minute. I'm sure he'll be back. But basically, yeah, I gotta say that my conclusion on this thing is that it's a lot of fun to ride. It feels surprisingly well made for something that, is fairly lightweight for a two-person bike. And so to get two people on something like this for that amount of weight is just incredible as like a mobility vehicle for two riders.
And I hit the wrong back button. So now we're back. All right, let's go to the story, I think, of the week. Parents, here's what to know if your kid wants a Sur Ron or high power e-bike. I will let you know that my kids both read this and both had lots of thoughts and feelings.
And I knew that I was going to be fascinated about that. And in fact, like I didn't want to talk to you too much about this before because I wanted to save it for the podcast because you are such a perfect example of this situation.
Yeah.
But anyways,
it's a tough one because I fight with myself about it. Like it's not just
right.
No, I'm serious. Like I have this dilemma all the time.
Yeah, and it's a dilemma, but we'll get to that in about 3.5 minutes. Okay. So, for everyone watching along, what we're talking about here or listening are Sur Ron style bikes. So, if you're not familiar, Sur Ron is just the first company that made these, but these are basically those bikes that look like small motorcycles. Talaria, E-Ride Pro, Tromox has them. A bunch of companies have these, and they've become super, super popular with teenagers. With many riders, but especially teenagers, they've become like the go-to, let's ride around with our friend's bike. And so this article entitled Parents, Here's What to Know If Your Kid Wants a Sur Ron or a high-power bike is basically meant to help educate those parents that have no idea what these are and just know like, hey, my kid's asking for this. And the take-home message here is that it's not that these aren't good bikes, but first of all, it's important to know that these are not electric bicycles legally, because the term electric bicycle is a legal term, which means that it fits into one of three classes in the US, goes either 20 or 28 miles per hour, and is legally speaking a bicycle. It's not a motorcycle. So this is not that. These are, by pretty much every state's legal definition, a motorcycle. Now they're a little bit of a smaller motorcycle, they're probably 5-6 horsepower, that sort of thing, but these are motorcycles. And so if you're a parent and your kid is coming and saying like, hey, a bunch of my friends got Sur Rons, can I get one? Then in my opinion, the question to ask is, what do you want to do with it? And if the answer is, I want to ride around with my friends, like, we'll ride the neighborhood, we'll go to school, that sort of thing, then this is not the right tool for that job. It's not street legal. If the answer, we'll get to it, Seth. I see the face. If the answer is, I want to like ride trails and I want to like go to jump parks and that sort of thing, then that's what these bikes were made for. Like they're small dirt bikes. They originally called trail bikes, and that's like their native habitat. They were built for basically like jump parks and trail riding. And so the issue here is that if someone wants this, especially a teenager or like, even younger, that they don't understand the rules of the road, not only are these not street legal, like they're literally an illegal vehicle that would be impounded by police if they were stopped, but you're putting what's often a 40 or 50 mile per hour motorcycle in the hands of a kid who's never learned the rules of the road. They don't understand right of way. They don't understand, road signage, that sort of thing. And so, in my opinion, and in the opinion of the law, if the goal is to ride to school or ride around the neighborhood or just use these on public streets, then this is not a legal vehicle for that purpose, and it's not been designed for it. Now, there are a few of these that do have street legal status. New has one that is street legal. I'm actually blanking on any others, but there are a few that are homologated, but the vast majority, probably 98% of these are not street legal and not designed for street usage or bike lanes or certainly sidewalks, that sort of thing. Now, I am not a parent, and Seth not only is a parent, but has teens who ride Sur Ron style bikes. So I'm even more interested to hear your perspective on this, Seth.
Yeah, so I would add a third variable in there, that the road between my house and my kid's school is a very steep hill, and it doesn't have any kind of side. So I don't feel safe with my kids, especially they don't ride them in bad weather, but in the mornings when people are rushing to go to the train, to go to the city, or to work commutes, or buses going around, I personally feel safer with my kids able to go 30 miles per hour up a hill, 35 miles per hour up a hill with traffic than even a 28 mile per hour e-bike, which going up a hill is going to have some troubles hitting 20 miles per hour. I know this firsthand. And cars just try to get around it, around blind curves and all the other stuff. So in my particular case, I do the math on my, do I feel safe on an e-bike, or do I feel safer on a faster 35 mile per hour bike? I do feel safer on a 35 mile per hour bike because I'm not getting passed on the side of the road. I'm not, their cars aren't catching up to me around a turn that's dangerous. Now, of course, so my 14-year-old who, in the winters is a competitive snowboarder and jumps 2-story jumps and backflips onto ice and lands on his back sometimes. So, I have a threshold of, danger that probably is not the same as most parents, and God forbid anything, bad happens to the kid. I don't have that fear. In fact, I have when he takes a regular e-bike to school, I'm actually more worried, more scared that he's going to get hurt than when he takes his Talaria. He rides in eco mode, but unlocked. So a Talaria comes with a 20 mile per hour, brown wire. We've turned that into a switch, and then he rides on eco mode, which goes up to about 35 miles per hour. Up a hill, it'll go, somewhere between 30 and 35 miles per hour. And that was kind of like the compromise we came to on the speed of the bike. In New York State, the law is 30 miles per hour or under 30 miles per hour, or, our particular area for e-bikes. So that's kind of like the compromise he and I came to. And, reluctantly, I think his mom probably also abides by that. So the idea is that we're obviously I want what's safest for my kid. And I just don't think that in my particular scenario, a 20 mile per hour e-bike is the safest thing for my kid. That said, there's some other variables to consider, like the hill that he's going up. When I come home on an e-bike or a regular bike, I'm going down that hill. I've gotten up to 50 miles per hour on that hill, on a regular bike. So, there's danger in speed, right? That the speed is the danger, but you're gonna have every kid going down a hill is able to go. There's no on a regular bike, there's no brakes that automatically stop at 30 miles per hour. And if we really cared about safety, we would put like this kind of safety, we would put governors on all the cars that are, killing e-bikers around town. Like that's where the real danger is. Like,
Oh, I'm with you there.
It's the cars. So I don't know. It's for me, like, as a parent, I think about this all the time. Like, I am worried about his safety and the fact that I feel safer knowing that he's going with traffic than traffic has to go around him. So,
Right.
The difference.
So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah. So you have obviously a very specific case, right? So one, you've got like a hyper coordinated 14-year-old, and two, you live at the top of a steep hill. So like that's a very specific case. So if you were advising a friend of yours that, let's say, had like an average 14-year-old and lived on like a flat neighborhood, would you advise them the same thing? Would it be different?
Well, I think the car speed issue is something that is universal. Like, cars don't drive 20 miles per hour. They don't drive 25 miles per hour unless they're in a school zone or, whatever, in a very busy intersection. Cars go 30, 35, sometimes 40 miles per hour. And the fact that they, want to get around you, like if you're a biker and you're driving on a street, they're not going to, worry about your safety. They're going to just get around you however they can. And,
Right.
if they're going around you and a car is coming the other direction, they're just going to knock you off the road. They're not going to take a head-on collision. Right. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Like, we know this.
Yeah. We're the bottom of the pecking order.
Right. So for me, yes, my son is very coordinated. He also, like, for better or worse, does the wheelie thing, does the knees, dance or whatever on the back, which for me is awesome. But like, I know that adds danger to it. He's not doing that on the way to school, but he's doing that in, like,
in the parking lot after school.
Parking lots. Yes. Not on streets, hopefully. So yeah, I just think there's such nuance to it. But I think overall, like, I think generally speaking, we need to acknowledge that sometimes some speed is safer. Like, I would say 35 miles per hour is safer than 20 miles per hour in many cases where bikes are on roads with cars. If there's a bike lane, 20, slower the better. Like, if you have your own dedicated bike lane, especially if it's, physically delineated from car lanes, then you're going to be much safer going 20 miles per hour. But if you're, like, operating with cars, like, I think you can acknowledge this. Like, you've ridden in Tel Aviv on streets with cars. Like, it's much safer to drive at the speed that cars go than, or closer to the speed that cars go than it is at 20 miles per hour when they have to go around you and operate like that.
So that brings me to one other question here for you, is that, so we're talking about sort of 20 mile per hour e-bikes versus a 35 or 40 mile per hour Sur Ron. But the thing that we're leaving out here are class 3, 28 mile per hour e-bikes, right? Like, you have to pedal, but you could be doing 28 miles per hour. Does that change this equation of, like, would you tell a parent, well, maybe, a 28 mile per hour e-bike is the right solution for your kid? It's legal. The cops aren't going to give him a problem. It's not a 40 mile per hour motorcycle. He has to pedal it if he wants to go that fast, so he's getting some exercise. Is that a compromise?
I think it's going to be a compromise for a lot of parents. But, the bikes that are built to do that can't go up a hill, steep hill, especially at that speed. So there's a lot of nuance to it. A lot of the class 3 bikes, like, it's hard to go 28 miles per hour. It depends on the bike. Some are very easy to go that speed. Some will go, 32 miles per hour. And frankly, those are my favorites. Like a Frey CC, for instance. That's a great bike. Like, I would recommend that up and down. In fact, I would love if my kid rode that bike. And that has a throttle that doesn't stop. A Luna, Ludicrous. What is that? The X2 Enduro.
X2? Yeah.
Those are all, like, mountain bike style bikes or pedal style bikes that pedals work great on. But they don't stop at 20 miles per hour. They will go 30, 32, 35, if pushed that fast. So in my mind, I would love for my kid to ride those bikes. The reality is he would much rather ride the Talaria Triple X, and who wouldn't really? But I think that's the answer. I think we gotta maybe make a class 4 e-bike and say, all right, this doesn't stop till 35 miles per hour. It it has pedals. It's some faster speed that's safe to drive on roads, but doesn't require a license. Or maybe we need to have like a light license or moped license that makes it super easy. And maybe we can get a school class that gives you the licensing stuff. Like, I'm all for education for sure, and especially like for education for drivers, young drivers, like high school drivers, about bike safety.
Definitely.
So I'm just, I'm like, I have this nuance, this real world scenario that plays out in my mind every day. So when we're talking about this area, I have a very, passionate feel about it.
Definitely. And so you mentioned your kids had some thoughts about it too.
Yeah. So, so Ben was reading it, and my youngest son, and he's like, oh my gosh. And then, you mentioned me in there, and he's like, yeah, that sounds like you, Dad. That's the situation. So yeah, I mean, this has been a big, kind of, I don't want to say argument, but this has been, it's one of the things that comes up with our family discussions, is like, which is safe? Why is it safe? Ben, both my sons have been riding e-bikes and bikes for, their whole lives since they were 3 or 4. So, I feel like they have a lot of experience there. Right now it's cold. It rains here a lot. I don't let them go out in bad weather. So, I feel like if you take all the safety precautions you can, and theoretically, no crazy drivers are out there, you're going to be as safe as possible.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a lot to consider about the context here. I think, and that's something that we definitely agree on, is that it's not a black or white issue. There's a lot of gray in there.
Yeah. I mean, I would be super like in favor of a class 4 35 mile per hour e-bike category. And maybe we can just make one up and say, everything else is kind of made up, but class 4 goes up to 35 miles per hour, and, whatever. And we'll certify, send us bikes. We'll certify them.
It does seem strange that the regulations, like, they stop at 1 horsepower and 28 miles per hour, and the next step is like a 500 horsepower, 100 mile an hour, 150 mile an hour motorcycle. Like, there's no, once you move to 29 miles per hour, you're in the class of highway motorcycles. It's kind of crazy that there's not some other bin in between. Same for cars. Like, you go from a golf cart or like an LSV, a neighborhood electric vehicle, and the next step up is the same class as a Ferrari. Exactly. Yeah. There's no extra bin there.
Yeah. It's wild.
So yeah, we do need a little more gradation.
Yeah, it's a tough one, because like, you're talking about your kid's safety, and it's like, obviously for parents it's the most important thing, but at the same time, like, I don't want to be a helicopter parent. I love that my kid's out, enjoying nature and having a good time, and his friends are like out biking with him, and like they have a little posse. That's fun stuff, like, I love that stuff. So I don't know, maybe I'm the wrong kind of dad for today's day and age.
The cool dad.
Yeah. All right, let's move on here. Yamaha launches new electric scooter with Honda's swappable batteries.
Yeah, we rarely get to see Honda's batteries in the wild, especially not in another company's vehicle. So this is a cool case to see a new Yamaha scooter. Now, I'll tell you, it's only in Japan for now, so don't get too excited. Hopefully this will expand to other countries, but this is built around Honda's mobile power pack standard. If you're not familiar, this is a swappable motorcycle battery, more commonly used in like scooters, Vespa style scooters, seated scooters. That was developed basically by Honda, but agreed upon by a large consortium of other motorcycle companies to be the widely accepted standard for them to use in this case. It was basically created as a competitor to like Gogoro's batteries or somewhat lesser known Kymco's Ionics batteries. And the big deal here is that on the new Jog E, this is a Yamaha scooter. So we've seen it in Honda's products before. We've seen it in their PCX Electrek. We've seen it in some of their other vehicles, their new quad delivery bike thing. But now that Yamaha's building a scooter around it, this is one of the first major manufacturers to do it. And this is a sign that other companies are starting to coalesce around it. That doesn't necessarily mean that it is going to become the new standard. And like that great CGP Grey comic of like, I'm going to create an international standard, and now we went from 10 to 11 standards.
Yep.
That could be the situation here, right? Like it could just be another one.
It's so frustrating.
Yeah.
Like this is why we have governments that get in our stuff, like we can't come to an agreement. So like now we're inviting the government to come in and say, all right, I want this standard. And of course that's going to be the standard of the company that bribes the government the most. So
exactly.
You happy now?
Now it did bring us USB-C iPhone, so maybe there's something to it, but
yep, that's true.
Yeah. So, there could be something good. Like I think most people would love to have a standard battery. And so if Honda's batteries here become that standard, maybe that's a good thing. Now they're kind of low energy density. It's like the size of a Gogoro battery, but it's only 1.5 kilowatt hours, which is kind of small. So like this scooter, like most, has 2 in it. And so you get 3 kilowatt hours. For my Gogoro scooter, it's a bit more. I think it's like 1.7 or 1.8 kilowatt hours. So it's a little bit higher. And in my scooter, I still have storage under the seat with 2 batteries. So this one's a little bit small, but of course you can build any vehicle around these things. So Honda, I feel like they could have stuffed a little more in there. Though the good thing is that if the shell is standardized and the connector, then as batteries become more energy dense, all they have to do is put in new battery cells, and then you've got the same shell that is now a much higher capacity battery. So there is, some future proofing that's gone into this design, which is good. But we're just, we're still very early in this. Yamaha is one of the first to adopt this in one of their new vehicles. And so I don't think we can draw a meaningful, commitment from a lot of these other companies, which I think there's about 40 in this consortium that have said we want to make this a standard. But if they follow Yamaha's lead here and we start to see scooter after scooter after scooter adopting this, then maybe there's a chance that this actually could become a standard, which, it's a bit discomforting knowing that Honda could sort of like hold the keys to that as just one company. And, they've got the incentive to charge whatever they want for it and that sort of thing. But if it makes it easier to find new batteries, makes it easier to share batteries between scooters in a household, that sort of thing, then maybe it's a good thing after all.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on we need a standard, but like the fact that it's closed and Honda's just getting into it now. I mean, we have all these, riding mowers and different yard tools that could use these same standards. I feel like, I don't know, it's just such a frustrating situation. It would be nice. I mean, I kind of don't understand, like, like home stuff, like, like this mouse here, right? It's got a AA battery in it, or a rechargeable AA battery. Like, why can't we have AA? We have AAA. We have, like, why can't we just keep going up from there? It doesn't make sense to me why we're building separate batteries for every product we're making, especially very expensive products. And maybe the thing is, like, all right, the government doesn't get involved, but like if you make you make this a standard, maybe, a few companies out there, like big battery companies, I'm thinking like Samsung, Panasonic, the big Chinese batteries, cattle, incentivized, like, all right, you're building a 2 kilowatt hour battery. It's got to look like this. It's got to, fit into this plug. It's got to, do all this stuff. I feel like we got to get there because, we're basically just, dead ending so many different batteries. And I know
Yep.
batteries are, they stop being effective after a certain amount of use, so they're a little bit disposable. But it's just so frustrating because I have yard equipment and e-bikes and all these things, and they all use different batteries. And I've bought 20 different batteries that could be, I could just take a battery with me everywhere and use the same battery for every single one. Frustrating.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, maybe this is the answer.
Not going to hold my breath.
Fair.
All right. Let's move on. Why LiveWire's new electric maxi-scooter could finally make Americans fall in love with scooters.
Yeah, so I'm excited about this one. I might be a little bit optimistic, but I think that the maxi scooter concept from LiveWire actually has a chance of succeeding where most others have failed, at least in the US. Maxi scooters, which by the way is a terrible name for it. I wish there was something better, but these are basically much larger scooters. They're highway capable. They're usually quite powerful. Can easily go 70, 80 miles an hour, much larger seats, much more relaxed riding position. The rear seat for if you have a pillion rider behind you is usually much nicer so people aren't so cramped, that sort of thing. And these are very popular in Europe. A lot of people have a smaller scooter for like riding around in the city, but if you're someone who commutes every day on the highway, a large format scooter or a maxi scooter like this is sort of the standard. They never really caught on in the US. I mean, scooters in general haven't, but you will see in some cities, like especially in California, you'll see more small scooters, little Hondas, that sort of thing, but not large maxi scooters. And LiveWire, the electric motorcycle spin out from Harley Davidson, is going to be coming out with this new electric maxi scooter. I assume that it's coming to the US market. I mean, they launched in the US first for all their other models, even if it's probably going to do better with their European dealers. But it's built around the same DNA as their S2 motorcycles, which I have one. I have the S2 Del Mar, and it is an insanely powerful, incredibly fun, sporty bike. I mean, it'll do 0 to 60 miles an hour in 3.1 seconds, which is very, very fast. It's a high performance machine. And so this is going to be a more sensible, upright, comfortable, seated maxi scooter, but built around the DNA of a super fun, sporty motorcycle. And the key to this, and that's where I think it's going to be more approachable for Americans, is that it's not a motorcycle. You sit up in it like you're in an office chair. It doesn't have the scary concept of a motorcycle. It doesn't even use the word. Like if you tell most people motorcycle, they're like, oh, I'm not a motorcycle person. But this is not that. This is much more approachable. Basically, if you can ride a bicycle, you can ride a maxi scooter. I mean, I would argue you could ride a motorcycle as well, but it doesn't have the scary connotation that motorcycles do. And so if you give people the ability to go faster, you give them the longer range. This should have, assuming it uses the same battery as the S2 series, it should have over 100 miles of urban range, which for most people is going to be plenty. Even if you take it on the highway, most people are not commuting more than 50 miles or so to work. But it does it in a package that's sleeker looking, more approachable. You can ride it in more types of clothing, though you should still be protected, that sort of thing. But I just think it has a better chance of appealing to Americans than motorcycle culture, which just hasn't taken off outside of a small subset. It hasn't reached the level as it has in Europe. And I still don't think it will reach European levels, but I'm hopeful that this can succeed where others haven't. Now, we don't have full tech specs for it yet. We know it's built around a similar platform. We know it's going to be built by KYMCO, which is one of the world's largest scooter makers. They're based in Taiwan, and LiveWire has a partnership with them. And we do know that it should be coming in the first half of next year, I believe, assuming that LiveWire sticks to the current schedule. So hopefully we're going to have more like hard and fast specs for you guys soon. Hopefully we're going to have a price soon. Right now, LiveWire's got a crazy sale for a lot of their S2 models, which is around $10,000. So if they can bring this in even lower than that, because they'll be using KYMCO's Taiwanese manufacturing, then that could be a pretty attractively priced bike, especially considering the closest thing would probably be the BMW CEO4, which is like $12,000 or $13,000, and also looks kind of crazy. I think this just looks more reasonable to more people's tastes. It doesn't go too far in any one direction. So I've got high hopes here.
I don't hate the design, but I don't think I wouldn't call it mainstream either. Like I don't know what would be a mainstream highway scooter design. I know Honda has had one. What is it? Helix? No. What is Honda's
For
like highway scooters in the US? They had one for a while.
They're not the the T-Max is Yamaha, I think. I don't know. I'm not up on all the gas scooters.
So, I think, I don't know. I think the designs are cool for scooters, but obviously, as my kids would say, they're a little bit chopped. I don't know I don't know if these are going to be as popular as they would be if they were like a mainstream design. I do, like, if you're watching us, I do kind of think the one on the right kind of has a more rugged look. The one on the left, which is more the street legal or the street bike with enduro tire type, looks a little bit more futuristic. Not sure, what direction that is, but it's an interesting design language for sure.
Yeah. The only one they've shown off in the flesh is the one on the left there. That's sort of like the sleeker looking one.
Yeah.
And to me, that's more the one that like, professional and executive, someone like that rides. Whereas the one on the right is more like the younger, more like, it's not a motorcycle, but it feels like one kind of.
It looks like it could go off road a little bit, or gravel at least.
Yeah. So we'll have to see where they land with that, because we don't know if they're going to produce that one on the right as well. It does seem like the one on the left is moving more towards production.
Yeah, and I guess it would be more aerodynamic if you're riding on the highway. Those are the big, the range killers is the aerodynamics, and the more sleek one obviously would get better aerodynamics.
Yeah, a bit though. Your shoulders are going to be negating a lot of the gains that you gain from that fairing.
Well, theoretically, it's like throwing we don't know.
Yeah, if you tuck in behind it, maybe.
Right. Yeah, and they are like quite long. I guess that's good for battery storage, but it is kind of an interesting look.
And they'll probably have good storage ability as well. Probably fit 2 helmets under there. Do a lot of grocery shopping. Like, we get by with a small scooter, so imagine a big scooter.
Yeah, and the battery, it's not just these. I think the BMW is also pretty long as well. I think that's kind of like the idea.
Definitely, yeah. I think it uses one module of like the BMW batteries from their cars, and so it's very long to straddle that long battery module.
Do you have a time? I mean, I know you said early 2026, which starts in about 25 days. Do you have a review lined up, or?
Not yet. We don't even know exactly when. I forget if it was first quarter or first half of 2026 that they were saying that it would be released, but I don't have any specifics on when that will be. And I don't have a review lined up yet. I believe, the first journalist to ride the S2 several years ago when it was unveiled. So I'm hoping
the Del Mar?
Yeah, the Del Mar. So I'm hoping I still get some pretty early access to this one as well.
How are you feeling about the Del Mar? You still have that, right?
Yeah, I have a Del Mar. I love the thing. I wish I got to ride it more. I keep it in the US at my sister's place, so I only get to ride it when I'm in the country. But
that's at your sister's place in Florida?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's it's a great bike. It's super fun. There's been a couple of software updates I need to bring it in for to the dealer, which I never have time to do, so I just ride it as is. But it's a great bike and I love it.
Oh, I'm surprised it doesn't, update via USB stick or something, or over the air or something like that.
So it's one of these, like, technically it's a recall, but it's just like a recall for an update thing. So I think the dealer has to do it. So I think one is like if you just like rail on it in sport mode 100% of the time, you can push it past the fuse limit and then you'll blow a fuse. And so
Got
like,
it.
you know, they do something. So not that I'm like riding it like that. So
Cool. Yeah, I might. So I got some cake bikes and I had a lot of fun on them, and I'm riding my kids Talaria around, and I'm like, oh God, this is, this is so much fun. But I don't want to get a motorcycle license with a gas bike, so I'm hoping that I can get something like a Del Mar through the DMV here.
yeah, definitely. And also right now the price is so
I
good. I
know.
mean, they're not doing huge volume, so they're selling these things at, I don't know if it's cost or like at a loss, but man, like I compared to what I paid for mine and what they're selling for now, oh, it
Yeah,
hurts.
yeah, I'm very tempted. As it's the winter here, so maybe the local dealer will throw me some even better incentives. All right, let's move on. I tried the Strutt EV1, the autonomous robot chair that might redefine mobility.
This is a fascinating, I don't know what to call it, vehicle product. I mean, technically it's kind of a wheelchair class, but I don't even think that does it justice to call it a wheelchair. It's called the EV1. It's from a company called Strutt. They invited me to their demo day in San Francisco a few weeks ago, and I wasn't sure whether this was worth checking out. And then I looked into it a little bit, and I just had this hunch that it was going to be like a pretty game-changing vehicle. And so I went out there to check it out, and it absolutely is. I mean, it's not game changing. I think this is going to be life changing for so many people. This is, like I said, technically it's an electric wheelchair, but this is really a robot in chair form. It's self driving, so you can put it in fully autonomous mode. And that can be anything from like clicking on the screen to where you want to go to telling it. Like you can say, like, I want to make a smoothie, and it will take you into the kitchen, to the fridge, and to the counter, like driving by itself. It's got LiDAR, ultrasonic sensors, camera sensors, like total 360-degree surround sensor array, so that it can autonomously drive in crowded areas. You can take it into like a shopping mall or IKEA or like anywhere where it's just like full of people, and it will just drive around and not run into people. If there's someone's foot in the way, it will not run over their foot. But then it's also got a lot of driver assistance features. So like I was testing it out in like navigating areas where if you're going to like clip a door frame or something like that, it'll just gently correct for you so that you're in control, but it's preventing you from like running into an edge or bumping into a counter or accidentally running into somebody in a crowded area, that sort of thing. In terms of the design, it's got a whole bunch of cool features. Those front wheels are dualies, basically. There's two front wheels on each side, and so it allows it to better go over gaps. Here, if you're watching the video with us, there are people riding it over like grass, sand, basically every terrain it can work on. The front wheels are actually powered. Here you can see, so it's not like most wheelchairs where the front they're casters and it kind of tank steers and turns itself around that way. These, like, it's got powered steering. There it was pulling a Tesla. Here I was trying to take it out. Yeah, I mean, it's super powerful. And so basically, I think this is going to absolutely change the way that the people who are disabled and need these types of mobility devices, how they're able to get around. And interestingly, at the demo day, they had a lot of the people there that were beta testers and that helped Strutt understand what the needs of people who need this type of electric mobility assistance, and talking to them and learning that there are all these things I didn't consider. Just things like they showed pictures of the insides of their homes, and like every door frame is all chewed up. Like the walls are all chewed up because it's just normal that people unfortunately bump into things with their existing chairs. So the fact that this can just keep you like not just safer, but like maintain your property so you're not always banging into your door frames is kind of wild. But the ability to take you around, to do AI voice control, all of this built into what is effectively a wheelchair, but really more of like a self-driving robot is kind of crazy. Like here, I'm trying to drive it into a wall and it just won't let me. It just gently slows down once it sees that I'm about to hit an obstacle. And like weirdly fast too. I mean, they have them limited to about 7 or 8 miles per hour, but I think there's a chance they might open them up to faster than that. So if you do need to go longer distances, it's, not an e-bike, you're not going to be doing 20, but maybe if you do 12, 15 miles an hour, you can actually cover longer distances in these things like a small single-seater self-driving car. So just like a really cool piece of technology, both from the engineering and from the sort of accessibility options that it gives people that they didn't have before. Here I'm talking about how, like, as someone who as a job rides motorcycles and e-bikes and stuff, like it could be that one day I unfortunately end up in one of these, and it's nice to know that the technology is at the point where it's not like a hindrance anymore. It's not like, oh no, like I have to get a wheelchair. It's like now there are these devices that allow people who have to navigate a world that's not designed for them. Now it's just so much easier to navigate, and that it's not the huge obstacle it used to be, in a wheelchair. I still would rather not have to test
Don't
that
think
for as long as possible.
don't think that way, dude. Like I don't like
Yeah.
that kind of thinking at all. Like
Yeah. Well, I mean, but that kept going through my mind. The other thing that was kind of interesting that I kept wrestling with in my mind was that, like, so I'm riding this thing around, I'm having a legit blast on it. I mean, to me, like, it feels like a go-kart. Like, it's fast, it's powerful, it's nimble. We were drag racing these things. Like, it was super fun. But then, like, between drag races and like playing with it, I keep looking around and I see all these people in wheelchairs, like, who need these, and I'm reminded that, like, you know, I'm some jerk laughing and racing these things, and there are people that need this as their mobility device. But as I started thinking about that, like, each time I'd feel guilty, but at the end of the day, it was like, well, it like, what is wrong with these types of vehicles, these devices also being enjoyable, right? Like,
yeah,
if someone needs this as a tool to make their life accessible, why shouldn't it also be fun to use? Why shouldn't it bring a smile to their face that, like, you know, no, yeah, exactly, right? Like, these things are powerful. Like, no one looks at a set of crutches or, like, like a hospital wheelchair and is like, oh, that's going to be fun. But this is legitimately fun to use. And so if it can bring joy to the people who need something like this, I think that's incredible.
by the way, I wasn't laughing at that idea. If you guys are watching, we were watching a guy, get some significant air on one of these. So that's what I was laughing at, which is genuinely amusing. So, like,
Yeah.
I have to say, like, I'm fully on board. Like, I love all this stuff, but also, like, if you make these things too good, it's Wally, man. Like, it's just Wally. Like, that's what's gonna happen. Like, you're
So
gonna
that
have
was my first, yeah.
like
That
you.
was my fear when I first saw this, and why I,
Uh-huh.
like, considered, should I, like, go check this out. But as I dug into it a little more, it became apparent that this, like, they're not trying to create a Wally device. Like, this is a mobility assistance for people who need it. They're not marketing these as, like, are you tired of walking? Like, then I've got something for you, kind of thing. They're like, they don't want to call it a wheelchair, because I agree that this is so much more, but it's for people who need the mobility assistance. It's not for lazy people, which is part of why, like, I felt like a jerk riding around laughing and having such a good time on it, because, like, it's not for me.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I get that, but then, like, those people who are on the edge, right? The people that maybe they can't walk that well, but they can walk maybe, like, I'm thinking, my mom's getting up there in age. Like, this would be tempting, but then, I would kind of like, I feel like this would kind of take them off of that, exercise path. I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with this, but it, like, it just scares me because I get the Wall-E vibes looking at this thing, because it,
Yeah.
it is so good. Like, it is something that could be, like, the autonomous part, like, that's very Wall-E like, and I'm sure we're heading right in that direction.
Right. Like, what if instead of rushing to your gate, you could just, like, tell it to take you there, and you zone out and you're just on your phone while this thing, like, takes you to the terminal or takes you wherever you need to go. Like, I get that yeah, there's definitely, a case for either misuse or just, it becoming a rich person's plaything too, right? Like, because these aren't
Yeah, I
going to be
mean,
cheap.
like, who amongst us wouldn't rather sit, like, you're running through the airport, right? Like, who wouldn't rather like, sit and, watch a video on their phone, like, going, 20-minute walk through the airport? Who would rather rush with their suitcase, you know, through an airport? Who, like, I'm in that boat. I would rather, watch a video on my phone while I'm going through the airport on one of these than, carry my suitcase and, be behind what, like, it's just too tempting. It's like having a phone, but, like, for walking,
Yeah, yeah, it's like your own personal subway that doesn't suck to take you
Right.
everywhere you want to go.
Right.
Yeah, and you can zone out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
and
it
then,
and it
and
goes
then
faster than walking too. So, you're at like slow jog speed or jog speed or running speed.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, this legit goes like running speed. I
Right.
mean, yeah, like 7.5 miles per hour. Like I would love to get
It's
everywhere
dangerous,
that
man.
fast. That's like a serious run for me.
Yeah. Yeah, they're getting too good, man. I don't know. We'll see. All right, let's jump to the comments here. Oh, long show today. Skeptic, do you guys know where the also TMB will be manufactured? That's the bike from the Rivian sub brand that we've covered over the last couple of weeks. I'd be inclined to spend a bit more on also if it's made in the US instead of China, but I'm not sure if that's the plan. I answered that in the comments. Taiwan is currently where it's being manufactured, but I think they told me that they had plans to onshore or make in the US or assemble, do a lot of the assembly in the US, but the initial ones will be built in Taiwan. Turbo Slack says just get a two-stroke. We were talking about, I think, Talarias and Sur Rons at that point. That's just the wrong
That's the wrong. Yeah,
direction,
I'm going backwards. Yeah.
right? Okay, at least it's Taiwan, and I hope they onshore production soon. I could find out on their website, so I assumed it was China. I couldn't find out on the website. Yeah. Extra Hero says I salivate over the thought of owning one of those luxurious bike trailers. I could start a business if I had one. Is that
Yeah, those would be the Tern. I
oh
mean, they're
right.
not made by Tern. I think those are, or are they? I don't know. If, I don't think they're made by Tern, but those are really nice trailers. Yeah.
Kilometers too, Micah. I think we have our empirical bias here in the US, which I don't understand at all. Rad Power Bikes, more like bad power bikes. I'll see myself out now. All right, dad joke. The better solution for safety is physically separated lanes. Yeah, I agree. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the holy grail. Unfortunately, I think it'll be a while till we get there in some places, and I don't think a lot of cities will ever get there. But
And
I mean, that's like
suburbs.
the model in a lot of Europe is put different modes of transport on different levels. So hopefully we get there.
Yeah, and I was reading somewhere, or maybe I was just imagining, but I think if you paint like a dotted line on the sides, like initially I was like, oh, that's this is infrastructure with the butterfly, but it actually reminds drivers that there could be bikes in that lane, and that is actually beneficial. So hopefully there's ways that we can make bikes safer.
Yeah. Or
And
the green paint is also really helpful as like a
right.
visual reminder, like that lane is not for you, that's for us.
Right, right. And they have that in New York City quite a bit, which is nice.
Yeah.
The problem isn't really with speed; it's lack of education or prep. Speed is like I'm on your side with that, but like speed is a concern. Like if you hit something going 30 miles per hour, it's way worse than hitting it going 20 miles per hour. So, yeah,
Yeah. A lot of factors go into the teens on Sur Ron's equation.
yeah. And I've heard people complain about the acceleration, and obviously acceleration is something, but like I think that's a safety thing. Like if you can accelerate as much as a car can accelerate, like cars don't like that. They're like, I don't like that this car, this bike is accelerating at my speed, but like it's safer. Like if you can accelerate out as much as a car, I think it's safer personally.
Didn't
Um,
you famously whip one of those and land on your back because of the extreme acceleration of
yeah,
one
so
of
that was
those?
the Talaria MX4, or it's the four,
Yeah. Not laughing at your accident, just that like you just went on a hole. Like these things need to be as powerful and accelerate as quickly as possible. And just remember, you just like whoop.
yeah, that was. So it was funny because I was like, I wonder how fast if I just went like that, and I don't know where I was, like what in my brain was going, like, oh, you can do that with this bike, because I was just thinking I'm gonna go in a straight line, and I had forgotten like, oh, I'm on a really powerful bike right now, and so basically
Yeah.
I did that, and the bike just went ran out from under me.
Yeah, so that's something that like it's actually an issue. It's a small issue I have with e-bikes is that they teach poor habits for motorcycling in that way because we treat a throttle like an on-off button.
Right.
But when you get on something with significant power, it is no longer an on-off button.
That's
it's
exactly what
a
happened to me.
Spectrum of power. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, maybe there's something that like Sur Rons and Talarias should have is like a mode where you can't wheelie. I mean, the whole wheelie thing is a whole class unto itself. But you know, there's the new one wheel e-bike that wheelies. So if you can wheelie, the controller knows you're starting to come. I know LiveWire has wheelie protection, right? Is it LiveWire or
Yeah.
Zero?
Both of them, yeah.
You know, if we can put in the controller like, hey, I'm riding to school, no wheelies right now. Like if that can be a mode or the default mode, you know, like you have to like open a switch and click a switch if you want to do a wheelie or something. Like
it's got the plastic missile cover.
Yeah, exactly. Because you don't want to accidentally hit that. That would be cool. And it's like I don't think it would be, you know, you're talking about like an accelerometer or, you know, like it's not rocket science to make a wheelie shutdown mode. So maybe that's something that the new round of bikes could make their parents happier. Because the one wreck that my son has had was when he was doing a wheelie, and it wasn't bad, but you know, it didn't feel good.
Yeah.
All right. Skeptic says, yeah, it's crazy the way American cities have bike lanes that run between vehicle lanes. Yeah, there's a lot of weird
always blows my
infrastructure.
mind. Yeah.
I'd love to see all battery electric vehicles use swappable batteries. A universal standard would be awesome, so all vehicles could use the same swapping. Yeah, I mean, even EVs, like, you know, if you're talking about like 2 kilowatt-hour batteries, like you could throw, you know, you could have a couple slots in a Tesla, like emergency, you know, like in the trunk, like, oh crap, I ran out of electricity. Let me grab 2 or 3 of these, you know, 2 kilowatt-hour batteries just to get me, you know, 20 miles or something. That would be nice.
Yeah.
We keep giving JackRabbit passes, but still using those tiny batteries on what's effectively a full-size e-bike is crazy. I think they do pretty well with those tiny batteries.
So there are 2 styles of batteries there. The real tiny ones are 150 watt hours, and those are very small, but they're designed to be airline compliant. But the bike that we were covering that I just tested uses 2 of the big boy batteries. So those are each 360. So 720 watt hours on a 50-pound bike is pretty decent.
All right, let's move on. Carl in San Diego, champagne color on that scooter is disappointing. Looks good otherwise, and this model is a good example of why Harley name should not be on these vehicles. Yeah, I don't think anybody wants to call that thing.
Yeah, I should point out that the Harley name is nowhere on it. Like LiveWire did come out of Harley, but you know they're a separate company now. I think Harley's a majority owner, but like there's no Harley badging. Like they definitely enjoy the Harley relationship where they can. Like they use their dealers, but they separate as much as possible from the marketing and from the branding.
All right. Moving on. Have you ever checked out the brand called Emo? Do you know that brand?
I think they also make like Sur Ron style bikes, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I would say there's seriously like 30 Sur Ron style bikes being sold in the US right now. All right, massive price cuts on any bike is a red flag. I think we're talking about the S2 LiveWire Del Mar. They'll soon cut bait. It means that they thought they'd sell the price for profitability, and they failed massively. No company keeps building a losing product. I don't know that that's true, but certainly could be. Skeptic says accessibility doesn't get the attention it deserves, and I love the idea of pairing this new wheelchair with a wheelchair-ready Kia PV5. I wonder if Skeptic sells Kias in his spare time. It's a very good segue. To be honest, I wouldn't buy anything with a Harley brand just because I don't want to be associated with their customers. I don't necessarily buy into that. I think there's a pretty wide range of Harley customers. I hope never to need one, but I'm thrilled to see mobility like the Strutt EV1 progress, a thoughtful vehicle on many levels. You know, I don't ever want to be in a mobility scooter either, but like, we're going to get old, like in my 80s, 90s. If I have to go on an airplane and I'm 90 years old, give me one of those. I don't care. Like, I'll take it. I'll get through the airport. I would rather be in charge of myself. I don't want somebody wheeling me around. So, Carl in San Diego, wheelchair is a great product. My dad had MS. Since people spend their whole day, every day in this wheelchair, they need to have replaceable pads and need to adjust your body. Yeah, we'll buy into that. There's a YouTuber called Wheel Around the World who tests accessibility of various areas in transportation. He opened my eyes to how poorly we're doing to accommodate everyone. Yep. Medical devices should be co-developed with experienced wheelchair company to ensure that head brace needed for many people.
Yeah, they seem to have a lot of like add-on potentials there, like
modularity for sure.
Exactly. Yeah, they were showing how they have like bolting patterns so that they can add many different sort of components to it.
All right, medical devices should be co-developed with experienced wheelchair company. Oh yeah. All right, and then paint is nice, but I prefer cement.
Like a barrier between the lanes. Yeah.
Right. There's a long tradition of the Motorcycle Safety Foundation class for learning how to safely ride a motorcycle in the USA, offered in most areas at community college, for example. It also helps licensing. That's helpful. We have similar training for kids for bikes, but parents aren't taking it seriously enough to make their kids go get training. So I think we've talked about this in the past, but I think we're both in favor of like some kind of school. There's like opportunity for all kids, like to go through a bike training, maybe as part of like a curriculum. I mean, we're all kind of living in this world together, and it's important that the kids get the training for bikes. And then these kids are the ones who are later going to be driving cars, and they'll have that knowledge of bikes and awareness of bikes.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
All right. That's all for the comments.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in. This was a fun, a bit longer episode than we're used to, but we're glad to have all the discussion. We will be back here in another 2 weeks for the next episode of the Wheel E podcast. See you next time, everyone.